Hey, what's going on, you curious cats? I'm going to see if I can simplify why I believe, and many economists believe, that this free money that the government's handing out is not a good thing, and why I think you're going to see more and more of it. So I'll try and keep this video as short as I can, but in order to fully explain this, there's a few concepts you have to wrap your head around, and one of them is money and how it works, where it comes from. And basically what happens is money is an exchange of value, okay? So money represents time, labor, goods, services, etc. So what happens is, back in the past, we used to trade direct. So I would grow some potatoes, you'd grow some apples, I'd trade you potatoes for apples and whatnot. And then what we did is we introduced money, because not everyone wanted potatoes for apples. So it was hard to trade direct when things got a little more complex, and we started to trade on a larger scale amongst many varying different goods and services. So money essentially represents the underlying asset or goods and service. So what happens is, when the government comes in and starts creating all this money out of thin air, like we're seeing right now, let's just say, for the ease of math, they double the money supply. So they come in and they double the amount of money in circulation, and they put it out always in the form of debt. So what they do is they loan it out to the plebs, or the common folk. So we all go into the banks and we sign away and we buy into real estate because they tell us it's only going to go up and it's a great investment, you can't lose. So we all go in and we sign away and we take this debt, and now there's more money in circulation. So what happens is, now the money in circulation has doubled, but there's still the same amount of assets around. So there's still the same amount of goods, same amount of services, and there's double the money. So what will happen in that situation is, now the underlying assets will actually double in value, because there's twice as much money representing the same amount of goods and services. So when you have that kind of situation, what it's actually doing is it's devaluing the currency. So a lot of people think that over the last 10 years that, real estate really went up and homes increased in value. That's actually not true. Homes didn't increase in value by that much. What happened is the dollars devalued. So it now takes a lot more of the same dollars to buy that same underlying asset, because they pumped the market full of this phony money. So that's what happened. A house went 5 times its value in just 10 years. It wasn't that the house went up 5 times in value, it's that the currency lost 80% of its purchasing power. So when you start to wrap your mind around that and understand that, you can see why this free money isn't necessarily a good thing, because what it'll do is it creates inflation, and basically everything will get more expensive. So all the underlying assets, food, real estate, property, businesses, all of that will skyrocket in cost, because now there's more money floating around, and that money doesn't hold as much value because you don't have to work for it. You can just go get it for free. They're giving it away for free. Money used to hold more value because you used to have to work hard for it. Back the last 20 years, I worked really hard for my money. And so that money that I worked for has that hard work that's backing it or underlying that asset. But when you start to just give away the money for free, then it doesn't have the same value. If you don't have to work hard for the money, where's the value coming from? If they just start giving it away, it's easy to get. Everyone gets it. It's free. So what that'll do is it devalues the currency and it creates inflation. So everything starts to get more expensive because the dollar doesn't have as much value behind it. So why the rich don't care is because they own all the assets. They own all the property, all the businesses, the houses, the big fancy boats, all of that stuff. So when they create inflation, all of that stuff goes up in cost, in value. So they win because they're holding the assets. The rich people don't hold much money. They actually put all of their wealth into assets, because the assets will inflate and they go up in value with inflation. However, if you're holding money like a lot of the middle class trying to get ahead, then basically you lose your value. You lose your purchasing power. So the middle class basically get wiped out in these kind of situations, and they, this is all orchestrated. They're purposely crashing the markets right now because they want to come in, and with all this money they're creating, they lend it out to all the banking cartel, all these buddies that are on the in with the corrupt banking cartel. They lend it to them, and then they come in and they buy up all the assets. And what they do is, because things are getting so expensive and there's no work, now a lot of the middle class are forced to liquidate their assets to afford the cost of living. And they just come in with all the money they create and they buy it up. So it's a takeover of the assets. And then what they do is they basically create these government handouts to keep everyone from rising up, because they're just saying, look, we're doing the best we can. Here's $2,000 a month. We're trying our best to help you. And everyone goes, oh, free money. This is great. This is a good thing. But what you don't understand is it might look good on the surface, and it might be good for the first initial little bit. It might get you through. But what happens is it creates mass inflation when they give away money. When you no longer have to work for it and provide value for that money, it creates inflation, and that money will soon lose so much of its purchasing power that $2,000 a month is barely going to buy you enough food to get through, let alone to pay your rent and to potentially own a home. Like, good luck. Homes are going to be $5 million with all this inflation they're going to create. So this looks like a good thing on the surface, but when you dive a little deeper and you understand how money creation works and what happens with inflation and what happens, basically when they create all this money, is it devalues the currency, and it's going to wipe out the middle class. So a lot of people think this is a good thing, and you're all going to get used to it. You're going to start going, oh, why would you bust your balls for $3,000 a month when you can just sit on your ass and get $2,000 a month? So the people that were semi-productive are now just going to quit working, and they're going to sit around and they're just going to start collecting that $2,000. And the $2,000 is going to be losing its value, its buying power the whole time. And everyone's going to get used to this, and they're going to give up basically the ways that they used to contribute, and they're going to become reliant on the governments. And then they're soon going to find out that $2,000 of these handouts they're getting doesn't really buy them much. And now they've given up their businesses to rely on the government for their well-being, and the purchasing power of these handouts, like, they're just feeding you peanuts. They're giving you the scraps just to keep you happy. You need to realize that. This is not a good thing. And what it does is it people that busted their balls the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, basically to save money or to try and buy a house, now what's happening is the currency is devaluing. So if you really worked hard and contributed and put all this money in the bank, and now it's just losing its purchasing power, you're screwed. You thought you were doing the right thing. You were working hard. You were giving your time, your labor, your energy, your goods and services, your innovation in exchange for money. And now that money can't buy anything because basically everyone's getting it for free, and it just devalues it. It just destroys the middle class. It destroys innovation. It destroys motivation, and it creates a whole bunch of people that are reliant on the government. And the governments come in and they buy up the governments and central banking. It's all intertwined, and you need to start realizing that. The banks own the governments because they create all the money and they buy out the politicians, and it's all a big racket. And I know you probably think that's crazy, but that's the truth. And what they're doing here is they're buying up everything. They're going to own everything. And very few people are going to come out of this on top. And the middle class is going to get wiped out because they've convinced most people to take out so much debt. And those that did build some equity in their homes and they did all right on real estate, they convinced them to take out home equity line of credit. They said, oh, your house is worth this much now. Why don't you take out a little loan? We'll give you a loan on the equity on your home. So that people think to themselves, oh, my home's now worth triple what I paid for it. I may as well just take out a little loan because I'm so rich. And then what they'll do is they'll have a temporary deflationary period like we're going into now where they crash the markets. Most people, now you think your home's worth $1 million and then it's only worth $500,000. And then you go to sell because you can't afford things. And then boom, inflation kicks in a few more years later and you miss the whole thing. And the rich know this, and it's orchestrated, and they perfectly ride these waves, and they jump in and out at the right time, and it's basically a wealth takeover. So anyways, that was a long enough rant. I hope you guys kind of understand that. I know that was a lot of info, but that's the gist of it. Universal basic income is coming, and they're getting us used to this by rolling this out, saying, oh, because of COVID, blah, 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 we're going to give you these like tax breaks, and we're going to give you guys all some money. And it looks good on the surface and everyone thinks it's a good thing. And then next thing you know, they're going to say, oh, we're going to do this for an extended period of time because the economy's not recovering. And everyone basically gives up all of their radical self-reliance in order to become dependent on the government. And you basically will become more enslaved. And you give up anything, all your powers you give to the government, and you give it all up. So that's why universal basic income is not a good thing. It's going to destroy the middle class, and basically it's going to create a whole bunch of people that are now completely reliant on the government, and you're going to be giving up your freedoms and all that. And not too far in the future, this money won't buy you much. It's going to buy you some chemically grown GMO food, and it's going to be able just enough to rent a little 300 square foot box in a city, and you'll be ordered to stay at home and work from home off your computer where they beam you from, you know, all this wireless. Anyways, I'm going on a rant here. That's all pretty negative. But you guys, you need to start learning about this stuff. You need to learn how money works. Do your own research. Don't take it from me. Don't take what I'm saying as truth. Do your own research. Look back through history. Look at where the money comes from. Look at how they create it. Look at how this whole scam works. And then from there, make your decisions to protect your family. You know, get rid of your debt. Start saving in alternative currencies that actually will hold wealth moving forward. And yeah, become educated, guys, because this is a huge wealth transfer. It's a major takeover, and I don't want you guys all to get burned. They're basically wiping out the middle class here, and you know, we need to do our best to rise up in these times and remain radically self-reliant and take care of ourselves, take care of our family, because when this shit hits the fan, they're not going to be here to look after you. They're going to feed you some scraps, you know, some breadcrumbs just to keep you just above complete poverty, just above that threshold where you decide rioting's your best option. They'll keep you just above that. So you guys need to realize that and hopefully act accordingly. So I've ranted long enough, guys. I hope you guys liked this video. Please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And yeah, I know that all sounds a little bit pessimistic, but you know, truth is going to set you guys free, and you guys can act accordingly. So thanks so much for your time. I hope you guys are all staying well out there. And like always, God bless. Take care. Have a fantastic day.